December 2, 2001, Houston, Texas. The seventh largest company in America files for bankruptcy. Overnight, 20,000 employees lose their jobs. Retirement accounts evaporate into thin air. Billions of dollars simply vanish. This is the story of Enron, a tale of ambition, greed, and the greatest corporate fraud in American history. But it's also a story about something far more dangerous: what happens when success becomes more important than truth. To understand how Enron fell, you first have to understand how high it climbed. In 1985, two natural gas pipeline companies merged to form Enron. At first, it was boring, predictable, just pipes moving gas from one place to another. But boring doesn't make billionaires. Enter Kenneth Lay, Enron's chairman and CEO, a son of a Baptist preacher from Missouri who earned a PhD in economics and had political connections that reached all the way to the White House. Lay had a vision: transform Enron from a stuffy pipeline company into something revolutionary. Ken Lay would tell us we weren't just an energy company. We were changing the world. We were innovators. We were the smartest guys in the room. That phrase, the smartest guys in the room, would become Enron's unofficial motto and its curse. In 1990, Lay hired Jeffrey Skilling, a McKinsey consultant with an aggressive vision for Enron's future. Skilling proposed something radical: turn energy into a commodity that could be traded like stocks or bonds. Create markets where none existed. It was brilliant, and Wall Street loved it. By the late 1990s, Enron's stock was soaring. The company claimed revenues of over $100 billion. Fortune magazine named it America's most innovative company, 6 years in a row. Lay and Skilling became business celebrities. Their headquarters in Houston was a gleaming testament to success, complete with marble lobbies and modern art. But beneath the surface, something was very wrong. The problem with Enron wasn't just that it was committing fraud. The problem was that the fraud was so complex, so layered in accounting tricks and financial engineering, that almost nobody understood what was really happening. Enter Andrew Fastow, Enron's chief financial officer. If Skilling was the visionary, Fastow was the magician, and his greatest trick was making Enron's debts disappear. Here's what he did. Fastow created thousands of special-purpose entities, essentially shell companies with names like Chuco, Jedi, and Raptor. These weren't real businesses. They were accounting fictions designed to hide Enron's massive debts and inflate its profits. Imagine you're drowning in debt, but you want everyone to think you're rich. So you create a fake company, sell your debts to that fake company, and suddenly, on paper, you look profitable. That's essentially what Enron did, except they did it thousands of times over, with billions of dollars. But it gets worse. Fastow wasn't just hiding Enron's debts. He was personally profiting from these schemes, making tens of millions of dollars through partnerships that should have been illegal conflicts of interest. When I tried to analyze Enron's financial statements, nothing made sense. Their revenue was massive, but their cash flow didn't match. They reported huge profits, but where was the actual money? It was like trying to solve a puzzle where half the pieces were invisible. But few people asked these questions. Not the board of directors, who were being paid handsomely. Not the auditors at Arthur Andersen, who were making millions in consulting fees from Enron. Not the Wall Street analysts, who kept issuing buy recommendations even as the warning signs multiplied. Why? Because everyone was making money. Or at least, they thought they were. Inside Enron, the culture became toxic. Employees were ranked on a curve, with the bottom 15% fired every year. This rank and yank system created a climate of ruthless competition and fear. People learned not to ask questions, not to challenge authority, not to speak uncomfortable truths. The energy trading floor became notorious. Traders would create artificial energy shortages to drive up prices. During the California energy crisis of 2000 and 2001, while families sat in the dark during rolling blackouts, Enron traders joked about stealing money from California. One recorded phone conversation captured a trader saying, "They're taking all the money back from you guys? All the money you guys stole from those poor grandmothers in California?" The response, "Yeah, Grandma Millie, man." They laughed. By mid-2001, the house of cards was beginning to tremble. In August 2001, He arranged a company-wide meeting to boost morale. Employees asked pointed questions about the company's financial health. Lay assured them everything was fine. "Our liquidity is strong," he said. What he didn't mention, he had just sold $34 million worth of his own Enron stock. When other executives started dumping their shares, employees noticed. Many had their entire retirement savings in Enron stock, locked in 401k plans they couldn't access. They were forbidden to sell while the executives cashed out. "We believed in the company. We believed in Ken Lay. My retirement was supposed to be worth $2 million. When it was all over, I had $8,000 left. I was 62 years old." On August 14, 2001, Jeffrey Skilling abruptly resigned as CEO after just 6 months in the role. He claimed it was for personal reasons. Wall Street was spooked, but Lay stepped back in and tried to calm fears. Meanwhile, a mid-level executive named Sharon Watkins was putting together the pieces. She wrote an anonymous letter to Lay warning that Enron would implode in a wave of accounting scandals. She was ignored. On October 16th, Enron announced a $600 million loss and took a $1.2 billion reduction in shareholder equity. Questions about Fasto's partnerships could no longer be avoided. He was forced to resign. The Securities and Exchange Commission launched an investigation. Credit rating agencies downgraded Enron's bonds to junk status. And on November 8th, Enron admitted it had overstated profits by nearly $600 million over 4 years. The stock, which had traded at $90 per share a year earlier, fell below $1. On December 2, 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy. It was the largest corporate bankruptcy in U.S. history at that time. 20,000 employees lost their jobs. Shareholders lost over $74 billion. But the damage spread further. Arthur Andersen, one of the Big Five accounting firms, was convicted of obstruction of justice for shredding Enron-related documents. The firm collapsed, putting another 28,000 people out of work. The trials began in 2004. The American public wanted answers. They wanted accountability. Andrew Fasto pleaded guilty to conspiracy and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Jeffrey Skilling was convicted on 19 counts of conspiracy, fraud, and insider trading. He was sentenced to 24 years, later reduced to 14. He was released in 2019. Kenneth Lay was convicted on 6 counts of conspiracy and fraud. But before he could be sentenced, he died of a heart attack in July 2006. His conviction was vacated. Enron wasn't just about financial fraud. It was about a complete breakdown in corporate governance, ethical leadership, and regulatory oversight. Every system that was supposed to catch this failed. The scandal led to sweeping reforms. Congress passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002, creating stricter regulations for corporate governance and financial reporting. CEOs and CFOs now had to personally certify their company's financial statements, facing criminal penalties for fraud. But perhaps the deeper legacy is cultural. Enron became a cautionary tale taught in business schools worldwide. It revealed how corporate culture can rot from the inside, how complexity can be used to hide truth, how unchecked ambition can destroy thousands of lives. What makes Enron so instructive isn't just that people committed fraud. It's that good people, smart people, rationalized their way into participating in something they knew was wrong. They convinced themselves that everyone does it, that the ends justify the means, that they deserve the money they were making. The Enron headquarters was eventually sold and demolished. Where it once stood, there's now empty land, a void where a symbol of American capitalism used to tower. But Enron's ghost hasn't left us. Its DNA can be seen in every subsequent financial scandal. The mortgage crisis of 2008, the Theranos fraud, the FTX collapse. Each time we see the same patterns: charismatic leaders, complex financial structures designed to obscure rather than illuminate, and a culture that prizes loyalty over honesty. Closing narrator. In the end, Enron's story isn't really about energy or accounting or even fraud. It's about a question that every company, every leader, and every individual must answer. What are you willing to sacrifice for success? For Enron, the answer was everything. Their integrity, their employees' futures, the truth itself. They called themselves the smartest guys in the room. But intelligence without ethics is just a tool for destruction. And in the end, they proved that no amount of cleverness can substitute for honesty. The biggest fraud in corporate history wasn't just about the billions that disappeared. It was about the trust that was broken. And that's something no accounting trick can ever restore. Want to dive deeper into the stories of business empires, their rise, and their fall? Subscribe to Billionaire's Playbook for more fascinating investigations into the world's most powerful companies and the leaders behind them. New episodes every week.